Perfect. Well, hello, Sandra. Hello, Peter. Hello, Kenny. So basically, as you know, we today we're going to be talking about a little bit of budgeting and how AI um, can help us with the numbers, where are usually not like a pretty fun thing to check and do every single time. It's just a little bit hectic. So why not use AI to help us with numbers? And basically, we talk about like traditional budgeting is just, as it says, is the traditional like cycles, outdated information, and then people analyzing information but not looking at the full picture of your budget. And then, you know, humans, we can always miss some things and then miss some budgets or like some projections and everything else on this side. And well, in when we're talking about companies, we have bottles for budget, where like the different departments in different companies can want a piece of the slice of what of the budget for every year for their department, because they have and want to spend. And of course, AI is going to help us doing to do that really easily and really fast, instead of like the human process that would usually takes a while. So, of course, we have ChatGPT as our this time as our on-call analyst, which can be a tool that is, of course, is 24/7 with you. And with the natural language that it has, like we just kind of prompt it to give us the different results that we want. And we can generate formulas with it, or we can recognize patterns into our different budgets for every year. Or in my case, which is what I usually use it for, is for my personal budgeting every single month. I just use ChatGPT to help me with a lot of things. And uh, together we have been building my personal spreadsheet of like budgeting for me. So it's really good when we talk about saving money and know where you are with your money. And of course, for companies, it's going to be helpful as well. Today we're going to go through a pretty let's say basic process, which is more like copy and paste data, or like just calling the data and letting ChatGPT analyze the whole table. So we can do it like without going straight to formulas or like hard stuff that we usually have into sheets. And we can just go from a simple process, which is copy and paste with ChatGPT, and just have a little chat with it and analyze our information and get the best insights. So for this example, actually, I'm just going to show you little template, you really easy, like really simple template that has just two columns, which are like the month and the revenue. And then for this example, we have 2024 and part of 2025 as our months, and like our full revenue to like date and numbers, which are important for us and at this moment. And basically what we're going to start doing is just do some forecasting with that data. Of course, we know that, for example, GPT is going to be able to analyze more information in one table. But for the matter of this example, we just go with a basic process. So basically, this process, we have different options to do this process. One of the first one is just like copying and pasting the information and giving it a prompt. Actually, you're gonna get the playbook. So Sandra, for you, you're gonna like as and for you, you're gonna get a playbook in your email once we finish this call. And for the people that is watching the recording, you're gonna get a playbook where the prompts that we're gonna be using today. So it's gonna be like an easy process that you can replicate and like test by yourself with your own numbers. So if we have different ways to do this process. One of my favorites is just like download a CSV and give a CSV to ChatGPT, just because it GPT has oh, sorry. GPT has a way to basically understand the information from the CSV. Like it has different ways to read CSVs. And then sometimes when you copy and paste the first information, it takes a while for it to understand what you copy and paste. Because oh, let's say I copy and paste this one. It's gonna understand it, but you're not gonna be able to chat with the table as I'm gonna show you. So in the presentation, you're gonna find the first prompt that we're gonna use, or like the prompt that we're gonna use for this example of the forecasting, which is a prompt that's basically it's gonna analyze the trend of 2024, what we have already for 2025, and then project Q3 and Q4 revenue, including some patterns and everything else. That's the good part of GPT. It's not like the formula where you can like just you can project it by yourself, but GPT is able to understand and analyze your numbers and give you a really good result. And when you import the CSV to your GPT, you have the availability to chat with different cells. So while it's syncing, I was going to show you like you can ask a specific question about a specific parts of your document. So for example, let's say you have the cell this month, and then if you click it, you have this little blurb that connects to the table, so you can chat specifically about certain details on your chat GPT. And of course, GPT is running its own code and its own understanding, so it can give you revenue. So to avoid going to this process, I did prepare like this whole chat here. And basically, what we have here is a projected revenue for the current year, which is 2025. And then, as I was showing you, we have until June 2025 in your bot in our revenue, and then it did the rest of the year as Q3 and Q4. So, for example, it came back to me like, hey, Q3, you're gonna have a projected revenue of 730,000, but you have a confidence low, a confidence high kind of like variation, which is something that usually humans like when we are talking about revenue is like, oh, we're just gonna do one revenue, but it became without prompting it to, it became with like, hey, you can go, this is your margin in some kind of a way. And this is kind of the way that my GPT talks to me in a Gen Z language, where it says like, oh, let's quick buy check. But it's coming to me with like, hey, this is your trend line. It's linear, so you're gonna slope like plus 6.5K per year per month extra. And then you have forecast for July to December of this year. This is what I did. And then it's basically explain the process of like, hey, what's how I became to this margin. So for example, it says like, hey, I bundled 3 months in a quarter, so I took around 12% as a pragmatic 95% range. So that's the range, like the like over or low range that you can have in your revenue. And it's really good. It's just like it became with the whole analysis and the whole explanation of like, hey, this is what you're gonna get, and these are your margins. Then uh of course, part of the process, and this is a pretty linear process when we're talking about it, is like im- we imported the table, and then we're gonna keep going in the same chat. So we keep the context window, and we can just with one table do our forecasting. Now we're gonna get our budgets, and then we're gonna get our KPIs and even more. So basically, when we go to the presentation that you're gonna get, we have a prompt that is gonna help us with the budget. Of course, you can change it for like what you need. So for example, for this example, this is a company. So we're talking about like, hey, our typical ratio is marketing department gets 15 to 20%, operations gets 30 to 35. But for me personally, when I'm doing it for my finances, I just changed kind of the prompt for to be like, hey, I use the 50 30 20 rule, which is like 50 for needs, 30 for wants, and 20 for savings. I kind of remember, but like it's kind of like my personal finances, the way that it works. And it's gonna do the same. It's just gonna come back to me with a budgeting for that. So copying and pasting the prompt, as I was telling you guys, so we don't have to wait for the process. I have it here ready. I pasted my prompt, same thing, and then it came back with like, "Hey, this is Q3, Q4. This is your budget, and it's based on the mid-range radius, based on the conversation that we have been having with him." So basically, hey, like if marketing is between 15 and 20%, so let's go with the middle point, 17.5, and then same for like um the other departments. And basically it added a profit and caution part to the table just because it's part of the analysis that it came back with. So um again, GPT has a really good thing, which is it comes back to you explaining what's the process and what's the thought process behind where you're getting, which sometimes when us as humans is hard to explain. So here, for example, we have, hey, I grab the mean point percentage, so no what it's the way that GPT fights to me. Like it's so nobody fights over the pie slices when we're talking about like the different departments fighting for a little bit of the revenue. It's like, hey, no, I'm going to the middle point, so it's fair for everyone. And then I added a profit cut or caution template, which is like you have an unallocated 15%. So I just added it for contingency and like devs and you never know. And again, like, or that surprise Gen Z morale event that you never know. So we have an extra column, an extra caution in our budget. And for example, like we have the option if we keep the conversation to go in detail by detail for every department. So for example, like and you can change it and you be by go back to ChatGPT and be like, you know what? Marketing at 17.5 is good, but like I think because we usually do 15 to 20% to them, is just like let's just max them out to 20%. So yep, but it's basically that. And then when we're talking about it, like let's say for this table, I just can copy and right and paste it into a new slide. And then this is when we're talking about the copying and pasting side. It's just like I can create just a new tab and be like, hey, this is Q3, Q4 budget. That's the kind of process that we want to make easy for you when you're chatting with GPT. It's just like you being able to copy the numbers, you being able to keep the information in your tables. I'm going to show you another process that it's a little bit more advanced in this case, but like it's saying it comes from the same spot, which is like AI helping you to develop your numbers. And then basically if we keep going with our same conversation and all the things that we want to, we can build our guardrails because of course when we're talking about budgeting for different companies, we have contingency cuts and then we have expenses, like we have our base expenses, but we have those extra things that we never know that can happen as like spending opportunities or like contingency things. So again, in the playbook, you're gonna get the prompt for this, but it's just a simple prompt which is like you can copy paste it and adapt it to your numbers. So basically is, hey, guardrails is baseline times 1.10, or and the cut is baseline times 8.85, which is 85%. So basically, you know, you get your baseline, you get your stretch, you get your cut, and then you get all of these three tables, and it's basically a process of copying and pasting them into your master document so you have the information all the time. Um, okay, let's continue like the word rails. It's just like again, this is a simple process of like keeping everything in the conversation and just like copy pasting the prompts and trying and playing with the AI a little bit. So you can change and you can ask for different information. You don't need to ask for guardrails. You can ask for other things related to the numbers and your budget at the budget you're creating. And then we have some KPIs. So here is another thing that I like GPT to remember me every single day, which is like, hey, I have an expenses tracker. So GPT has the ability to, when you create a GPT task, where's the, oh, they moved it. Wait, they moved it from me? Where's it? Okay, let me just go this way. As always, they are changing the stuff every single time. If I go with four, nice.
I think I may have gotten rid of the task feature because I was actually looking for it the other day too, one, and I couldn't find it. So I wonder.
Okay, because I still have it. I still have the task. So for example, I just wanted to show you because like that's the way that it works for me. So for example, I have a chat where every single day, like literally this is a message that I get every single day, which is like, oh, update your expenses tracker. And when it sends you that message, it sends you an email. So it's like, hey, it's a really good reminder in terms of like like this is what you need. So basically, when I did created this a long time ago, is hey, remind me every day to update my expenses tracker. But like when I'm gonna check, yeah, because if they got rid of the tasks function, like, well, this is something that's not gonna work anymore. But like having reminders is important on this over this side. Um, anyway, so you're gonna in the playbook you're gonna have KPI snapshot to prompt, so you can just basically copy it and paste it and chat with your GPT and generate your KPIs. But basically, in general, what you are able to do from just one table, which is not showing here, but like from just one table, which has your information, is everything around your numbers, and you're gonna get someone that is gonna help you not only with the numbers, but is gonna analyze for you and is gonna explain to you what's every step of the process that it took in a language that you're going to be able to understand. Because honestly, sometimes when finance people is just explaining me about some numbers and things like that, I have to stop and be like, hey, can you explain that concept to me? Because I'm kind of like the Gen Z. I need the Gen Z lingo. That's why my GPT is like, hey, you know what, quick bite check, this is what you're doing. But yeah, that's basically it. It's just like the way that you can play with your numbers is a little back and forth between your chat GPT and your tables. I love to do it for my finances. Chat GPT usually is like, hey, you're spending a little bit too much on entertainment, but like we're friends, so like you can play with it. But like it's really good when you're doing it for like your personal finances as well, because I feel that I have an accountant that analyzes my expenses, and I can just throw my whole month of expenses, and I can be like, hey, why I wasn't able to save that much money this month. And ChatGPT is going to come back to me and like, hey, you went out to eat 4 times this month, so guess what? And we have another kind of process that connects to AI, which is called a app scripts, which are usually scripts that run in the back and you can connect to your GPT, which is something that we're going to be able to talk in future webinars, because it's a little bit more advanced, but it's a connection from with AI and Sheets. And I want to show you this example, which I'm trying to recreate on my own, because it's an example that I use my Google Calendar every day, and then sometimes I'm just lazy, and even though ChatGPT sends me update your expenses tracker every day, like reminder, if I go through my calendar and I'm like, hey, between these days I'm gonna have these expenses, and I have a button which is an extension here, but like I wasn't able to pull the script, but like here is a button that say like pull all the information. Basically, the connection, what it does, it just takes all the expenses that I registered in my calendar as events, which are really are things that are really easy to do, just because like I'm going to be able to be like, hey Siri, please add an expense of like $400 in my credit card for May whatever, and then it's gonna pull it, and it's gonna pull like a full month of my expenses, I'm gonna be able to track it within a script, and with just clicking one button, I'm gonna be able to pull all the information from my calendar and forecast my information in a, like, let's say, a template that is ready to go. And if I change something in my template, well, it's just like ready to let me know that I'm not doing well in some parts, or like, like you're spending too much, or like everything is like, hey, you spend a lot. But that's kind of like something that GPT and AppScripts, it's able to do. It's something that we're gonna talk in the future, because it's kind of like another process that we're working on internally in the Tourism AI network. And well, basically that's it. You can use these kind of prompts, or like you can play with GPT and your shits in like different kind of ways, and you can do it for your payroll, you can do it for your operations, you can do it for customer experience with like loyalty programs, or like things that are related for like with sheets and money and tracking expenses, or like budgeting. Of course, the marketing for marketing departments is really good. And then basically to track your subscriptions and things like that, which is kind of like a thing that I do with mine, which is tracking my subscription to Netflix, to Spotify, and asking me if I'm really using it, so I can just like cut costs, cut expenses and over my set. And basically into your playbook, you're gonna get a 5 days toolkit, which is just a 5 days process where you can like spend 1 hour, 1 hour or 2 hours during the whole week, just like practicing this whole process, taking your numbers, trying the prompts, and analyzing if that's something that works for you. I encourage you to do this rollout checklist and go step by step, so you can get used to the process of like getting a CSV to GPT and chatting with GPT and analyzing your numbers and everything else. And well, that's basically it. I hope you liked it, and I hope like it's something useful for you guys internally in your companies and personally as well.
So maybe I'll just first of all comment on a couple things. Is one, the CSV formatting. So when we're using spreadsheets, there's a couple things to keep track of or keep in mind. Is number one, CSV is the format that works best, and so we need to kind of convert our sheets or whatever docs into CSV to get the best value. I think one, you're going to include this in the playbook, but there are some best practices around spreadsheet optimization that I think a lot of people don't understand. And so number one, it being on a CSV is very important. Number two, actually, if you have multiple tabs on your spreadsheet, you need to save every tab as a separate CSV, because it does not understand multiple tabs and it cannot communicate between multiple tabs. So a lot of people say, oh, I uploaded this spreadsheet and it's not reading it properly. The other thing it doesn't really understand is formulas inside your spreadsheet. So it actually just understands the values in your spreadsheet. So, but that's okay. Those are all limitations. But the point I'm trying to make here is that there's a lot of spreadsheet optimization for AI that needs to be considered. So I think one showed a, obviously a very basic example just today, just to show an example. But if you're dealing with a much more complicated spreadsheet, there's more work to do in spreadsheet setup in order to get the value out of ChatGPT, right? And so I think that's just an important consideration. And again, we have I think that's going to be in the follow up materials that we send in this webinar. That's a critical piece.
Yeah. So yeah, based on that, it's going to do. But like, yeah, we have a part that is like, hey, you need to format your information, and you have to have like clean data, so you don't confuse GPT. And one thing that I always like to say is like, think about it. You're throwing something to someone new in your company without saying a word, and be like, hey, I need this. You want them to be able to follow a process that is smooth, not trying to figure out what's going on all over the place, right? So that's kind of like the way that I like to treat my GPT too.
So if you give it really clean data and make it as simple as possible, could I prompt as well to say, create a budget for next year, taking in consideration inflationary forecast and potentially trends for the different business units. I have a casino. What are the trends you're finding online that they're forecasting for the next year? Would you be able to do that, and they can help you spit something out?
Yes, what I would suggest on over that side is giving it a little bit of extra context. So,
Hmm.
of course, ChatGPT has the ability to go through the internet and like
Hmm.
watch for the forecast, like on the futures for different markets. But if you go first and get information about them and give it as a context. So you go in a first GPT deep research or search like, hey, I need the information of like how 2023 futures are looking and how's this that these different markets are looking. So that's information that you're gonna input into the CSV. So like, you give it your CSV and you're like, hey, for your context,
Yeah.
these are the futures that I want you to analyze.
Yeah.
So, that the more context, the better. But yes, it's going to be able to help you. And if you give it clean data, you can do almost whatever you want.
Okay.
Well, and
And
I think actually, Sandra, for you, if I think about your business,
Yeah.
actually setting up app scripts in Sheets, or there's another sort of tool called GPT for Sheets, which is the same kind of idea.
Mhm.
I think that would be maybe a better way because keeping everything. So what app scripts or GPT for Sheets does is essentially adds a chatbot inside the sheet so that you don't have to get outside of the sheet and go into ChatGPT. You could do everything in the sheet, but literally you can then, kind of run a script to say, what is I don't know, what's inflation or whatever, go get this information from the internet. And you literally just use natural language in a sheet and you can fill cells inside that sheet with whatever that data and that information is. And you can run, so it's literally run scripts, so programs
Yeah.
that say, go to the market every day and, what's the dollar at today or what's the, what I mean? It can be kind of doing it in real time naturally. So I think that given the complexity of your organization and structure, I think probably spending the time to build app scripts, which takes, just for context, app scripts is a little more, takes actually a little bit of like programming because what you need to do is you need to actually set up a developer. Correct me if I'm wrong, Juan, but essentially set up an OpenAI developer account and then connect to that account and then actually use what's called tokens, which is like sort of like AI credits to run your scripts. And then you actually have to set up your scripts. It sounds like a lot of work. It's actually not that bad, but there's some technical know-how to do it.
Right.
But I think that if you did a combination of if you really set up your sheets well, and we certainly have capacity and capabilities to help if you're interested, but then you can literally just talk to your spreadsheets and say, build the budget
yeah,
out for next year based on the last 5-year historicals, or you know what I mean, based on what I
Yeah.
mean. You can talk to it and get what you want, which is amazing.
Okay.
yeah. It's funny that it sounds like a lot of work, but like, I mean, you have to program and everything else, but once it's done, you're gonna have the ability to just click one button and chat inside of it, and it's just like calling Chat GPT inside of your shits and adapt it to your own processes.
Hmm.
Here is more like a general thing. If you have specific processes that, let's say, you are the only one in the world that does them, that's something that, with app scripts you can configure it and do.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes. Excellent. Well, thank you. If you need any help with that, Sandra, you know how to find us.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. And I'll just note too, we have released like our fall kind of lineup for training. I see we have another person that joined the call, Erin. Hi, Erin. So those are all in the Circle community listed. Starting in August, we're going to be doing like a monthly intro to AI and a deep dive to ChatGPT. So yeah, join those if you can. And hope everyone has a great summer.
Yeah. Have a great summer, guys. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Appreciate
Bye-bye.
it. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.